Welcome to a new episode of Film Seizure. I am Admiral Geoff Arbuckle.
I'm Viger.
You've already fucked this up. You're done. I'm turning off your mic. I'm taking this one over.
I'm Viger. I am Viger.
I thought you were gonna be a captain. I was gonna temporarily demote you.
I got a little jewel on my neck.
You're not.
I'm shaving my head.
No way you're gonna look as good as.
Viger.
No, Viger wasn't what she was.
She was the Viger's probe. Yeah.
She could probe me.
So what movie is this, Geoff?
This is Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
This is the human adventure is just beginning.
Yeah.
That was a major part of the promotional element of this. I think, though, that there were different opinions of what the word adventure means, and we'll talk about that because this is an adventurous movie. Most people would disagree, but I don't think they are thinking it in the same way that that the people making this movie and the way I'm taking this is trying to take it. Does that make sense?
No, but we'll unpack it.
We got lots to unpack on this one.
Yeah, we do.
This is a dense movie.
Uh-huh.
This is a very dense movie. First of all,
it's dense and it's not. It's kind of like an airy denseness because ultimately the movie doesn't have like a ton of plotting.
No, there is really no plot. It's a real basic plot.
It's like it's like Star Trek's Close Encounters kind of.
Yeah, it is trying to be, and Close Encounters does play into the history of this movie quite a bit, but it's very much Close Encounters and 2001.
Yeah, for sure.
It's 2001 in the sense that the plot is super simple. There are a lot of visuals that you are to take in a certain way, and the Close Encounters element is the idea of meeting something that's beyond our comprehension.
Yeah,
or beyond a general collective comprehension.
The 2001 reference is definitely there. I got a lot of Tarkovsky's Solaris out of this. Seeing this, I haven't seen this movie in so long. I've seen probably Solaris, both versions, half a dozen times since I've seen this again.
I feel like I've seen just recently a half a dozen versions of Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Well, Star Trek made a version of Star Trek the Motion Picture when they made Star Trek 4. I mean,
in a way, yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, okay. Boy, there's a lot to unpack.
And there is.
I really don't even, because there's behind the scenes stuff to unpack.
Yeah.
There's the timeline within universe of why people are acting the way they are, and there are a lot of themes in this movie. Like the themes almost step over each other, trying to expose themselves to the audience. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm going to be saying, does that make sense?
Does that make sense? Because he wants to make sure that I understand it.
I'm about to evolve into a higher consciousness.
Because maybe you're trying to get me to, or we're supposed to merge at the end.
It's going to be a Cronenberg.
So that I feel the human in you, in me. Oh.
Yikes. I don't want you to ever say anything like that to me.
Do you know what I mean?
I do not know what you mean. Okay. I know what you mean, and I don't like it, and I don't want to know what you mean.
I think a good place to start here, Geoff, is where we start a lot of our episodes like this, is from a good old healthy dose of nostalgia.
Oh, yeah. This movie's super nostalgic
So
for me.
where this movie kind of impacted both of ours, how we have connected with it over the years. And then I think we can start to unpack how this movie has changed for us into adulthood.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and take lead on this?
Yeah, this will be real easy for me.
Yeah, because I'm going to need about 79 minutes.
Yes. So I'll be brief to a degree. This was not a movie that I was around much as a kid. I watched it. I didn't get it. I thought it was slow and dull, and I was like, I want to watch fucking Star Trek 2 and 3. Like that. And then when Star Trek 4 came out in the theater, man, my body was ready.
Yeah.
Right? So that's me. I watched the original series a lot because my dad loved it. But I think my dad's connection to Star Trek was more as sort of like the space cowboy aspect of Kirk,
Sure.
right? And not so much the heady sci-fi, because he didn't like this movie. And that's why we didn't watch it much, or why it wasn't on much. I mean, if it was on TV, he'd put it on, he'd leave it on. But it wasn't one that we enjoyed together all that much.
Fair enough.
And I think part of it is that for a lot of people, this was their first experience of Star Trek on the big screen, or the first experience of a huge budgeted Star Trek thing, right? A huge production. It wasn't for me. I'm pretty sure I saw 2 and 3 way before I saw this. So kind of going backward to the motion picture, it for a child that grew up on 2 and 3, it was too cerebral.
Okay.
And I just didn't really connect with it. There are things I like a lot more about it now than I did as when I don't know, probably 5 or 6 when I first saw this movie, maybe a little older. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where we go in the depths we go as adults talking about this movie.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
I mean, it is, and I could see kind of where my dad, being a big Kirk fan, didn't really connect with this movie.
That's interesting.
Because Kirk is not quite, I think he's more of a human character in this. And he's kind of more of an adventurous cowboy archetype in a lot of the other Trek movies.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about that. But continue on.
Okay.
Because you're already touching upon other elements that I think we will be talking about later too. But go ahead.
Sure. So there were always things about the pacing. You always hear people complain about the pacing of this, and
man, you know what? That's another thing we're going to talk about.
I know, and for me, as a child, that was a problem because I wanted Star Trek 2, right?
Sure.
But it's not a problem for me now. I do think there are moments, and I don't know the director's cut as well. I don't even know if I've seen the director's cut, but I've heard that there were edits made for pacing for that to some degree.
But it's still longer.
But
it's really interesting,
I
and we'll talk about the various cuts later.
There's a few sort of moments in the film where I think, okay, we could probably trim some of this. I know exactly the parts you're talking about. I get how huge all of this is.
Yeah.
I get how this is like the cum shot of Star Trek on the big screen, right? To forgive my crude metaphor, but that's sometimes how it felt. It was like, bask in this greatness. And I was like, okay, but now I sort of feel like this is the punchline at the beginning of Spaceballs with the wide load license plate at the end of the big shot, right?
Well, yeah.
It's kind of like, all right, yeah, I get the magnitude. I do. And I think it's rad. But let's get to the next thing.
Yeah, we have stuff to talk about that too. Because I do understand that critique in a couple of places. Generally, I kind of feel, and I'm just going to say it, if you're an adult and you have a problem with this movie, then I don't think you understand this movie.
Understand it in the sense of
in the sense of the themes it is wanting to project.
Sure.
But I've got a whole rampage I'll go on with that later.
I don't have any real true negative critiques about what this movie is trying to accomplish and what this movie does accomplish.
Yeah.
I do feel like from an editing standpoint,
fair enough.
There are some things I would like to see, and I am actually eager to watch the director's cut to see what changed in that regard.
That shit needs to be released on Blu-ray because you ain't gonna like the version that's there.
Because if I did not like this movie, yeah, right, I know, I'm sure
you're a visual.
If I
elitist.
did not like this movie, I would not be that excited to see the director's cut.
Right.
But anyway, I probably, to be super fair, enjoyed this movie more in this setting, 40th anniversary on the big screen in the theater, than I've ever in my life enjoyed this movie. And I enjoyed it quite a bit.
This is, without a doubt, one of the best looking movies ever made. Ever. And I don't think anybody would ever poo-poo that idea.
One of the best sounding, too.
Oh, my God.
I don't know who this Jerry Goldsmith guy is, but I mean, I never heard from him again. But
certainly not with Star Trek.
I mean, he was a one and done guy, but holy crap, he just knocked it right out of the park with this score, didn't he?
Yeah, not just the score, but the sound design is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so my connection to this movie, gosh, I mean, this movie came out. I was just a couple of months away from being 3 when this movie came out. This came out the very end of 1979. I cannot tell you, in the grand scheme of context, did I see this movie before Star Trek 2? Mm-hmm. I know I saw Star Trek 2 in the theater. I doubt I saw this in the theater. Positive my oldest brother, Jim, did, because that's where I get my love of Star Trek from. I definitely know I watched it on TV, be it cable or home video, and certainly what's a note that will be for later, the ABC Sunday movie of the week. That played a lot in the summertime. Mm-hmm. It was an easy 3 hours for it to fill in the summertime when there's nothing else to play. I always loved this movie. I don't know if you would have asked me why I love it. I could go any further than to say the way it looked, and in particular, the refit Enterprise. Mm-hmm. That is, I mean, the Millennium Falcon can go fuck off. My ship is the refit Enterprise.
Well, there's a good scene of Enterprise porn in this movie.
Oh, my golly.
I mean, holy moly.
Yes. And I love every minute of it. And I say
every
minute.
Every minute. Yeah. Many minutes.
It's a 5-minute sequence. But I love it. I love that ship.
I'm
wearing the fucking shirt right
I completely 100% understand why that scene is the way it is. I completely get it. But yeah, I didn't have that same sort of joyous feeling seeing it when I saw this movie, because it didn't feel that big to me anymore.
No, and that's fair. But so between that and all of the weirdness inside the V'ger ship is stuff that I can't remember a time when that wasn't part of my memory.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I can't remember a time when Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back was not a part of my memory. I can remember when Return of the Jedi wasn't part of my memory because I remember going to see like E.T. or Star Trek 2, for example. So, you know, I cannot remember a time when the visuals from this movie was not part of my collective memory, in my whole life's collected memories.
The inside of the V'ger.
God damn, I'm gonna beat you over the head with my microphone.
I was trying to do like a vagina.
Well, we're gonna. There's definitely orifices.
I was trying to create a new word.
Yeah, there are definitely some orifices discussed in this movie. A lot. But I was always a stark defender of this movie. I liked this movie more than Star Trek 3. Though in my later years, Star Trek 3 has grown to the same level as this movie. And I'll tell you the reason why I like this movie more than Star Trek 3. 2 reasons. One, the Enterprise got blown up in Star Trek 3. This ship got blown up in Star Trek 3. Yeah. That was hard times for old Jeffrey.
I always loved it when they blew up the Enterprise in Next Generation or the movies.
They did it way too much at that point.
I always loved it though.
But
I would call my buddy up because we'd be watching it live. I'm like, they just fucking blew up the Enterprise.
But no, but Star Trek 3 is a very sad movie.
Yeah.
And you need a little bit of age and you need a little bit of maturity to understand why. And in that regard, age and maturity has elevated Star Trek 2 so far up. As much as I already liked it before, I mean, there is no Star Wars movie I like as much as Star Trek 2. It's so high up that when you say, well, what's your favorite sci-fi movie? I always say Blade Runner, but it's really Star Trek 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on level. I mean, it's on a level of the size of the V'ger cloud. That's how large it is in my life.
It's as large as the inside of V'ger even.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really can knock around inside there. Oh gosh. But no, as years went on, of course, it was like peeling back the onion, right, on this movie. And nowadays, I want more sci-fi like this.
Sure. Yeah.
And I despise when Star Trek fans, particularly fans of the Next Generation, shit on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is the very sci-fi that you desire desperately from this franchise.
Yep.
But you're shitting on it. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's offensive in a way, because it's like, okay, well, if you don't want the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, which I understand, it's more dumbed down, it's action, but and you want something more cerebral, like some of the very best Next Generation stuff was, then I don't understand why you don't like this movie. This movie is so cerebral. Who was the credited science consultant?
Oh, it was it wasn't Carl Sagan, was it?
No. It was Isaac Asimov.
Yeah,
Asimov.
Yeah.
So that's significant.
Yeah.
And it certainly should, at the very least, kind of show the hand a little bit about what they wanted to talk about in this. And Gene Roddenberry only had to make Kirk a space cowboy to sell the show.
Right.
This is his style of sci-fi. He wants this Ray Bradbury style of high idea in the Asimov and the Arthur C. Clarke high idea type stuff.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, you would think he probably considers them contemporaries, peers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And certainly, I would say Ray Bradbury would think of Gene Roddenberry as such.
Yeah.
They explore themes very similarly. Although I would say that probably Gene Roddenberry has a lot more instances of putting men in dresses. Almost all of his, if you look back and find any clips or anything from other series he tried to start where it took place in the future, men in dresses.
There are,
which is funny because that's probably technically I would suspect male creatures from another planet probably don't wear pants.
Well, men didn't wear pants before.
No.
Before, yeah, they didn't. They wore like tunics. They wore tunics and
yeah.
togas and sheets and shit.
Yeah.
They didn't wear any fucking pants.
Right. I don't think. I mean,
they probably look at us as like, why the hell are you all bunched up around your genitals? Like, what is the point of that? You got to let that shit breathe, man. Because it is kind of ludicrous.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, that's and if you think about it, that's a high idea, right? Because it's stepping outside our construct. But
boy, there's something I love and something I hate about this movie: the costumes. Like, I really like the look of Kirk's admiral's uniform.
Oh yeah, the ship captain's the boat captain uniform.
I love it. But
yeah, I love that.
Some of the like unis and they're just not good for the male.
Oh, I saw a lot of outline of dick.
A lot of outlines of dick. It's funny.
But the tunic version though, where there was pants and a tunic separate, and
it was very 70s.
Yes, I want all of the furniture from that movie in my living room here.
Kirk's lounge is phenomenal.
Oh my god,
so good. Not quite as good as McCoy's medallion, but
Oh shit!
and his chest
man.
hair.
Oh shit!
It's
yeah,
crazy cool.
That
medallion.
should be my next fucking Halloween.
It really fucking should be.
I can get that beard going.
That's perfect.
I can be grumpy.
Oh yeah, good working on that.
Yeah,
you don't have to work on the grumpy part, but the beard part,
or the hair part.
yeah.
No,
There's another gripe though I've always had about Star Trek is they change uniforms a lot in the universe, like
until
a
they did
lot.
Star Trek 2. And then they kept those
They
into the
did.
Next Generation,
They did.
almost right before Next Generation.
I like that continuity.
Yeah.
The motion picture, I think maybe they realized, we got to update
Well,
these uniforms to something that works. It's a little bit more military.
There's
And there was
a couple
there
of
was sort of a
things-
shift, I think, too, in the mentality of the Federation. It was more in conflict.
Yeah,
In
so
the later movies, so you have like this, warring factions, and all the uniforms become more militaristic.
I can give you some context here.
All right.
First of all, Star Trek Phase 2, which we're going to break down this whole thing here in a minute. But Star Trek Phase 2
We're gonna be here a while, folks.
was going to wear the same yellow, blue, red outfits that the original series had. When it came time that this was becoming a movie, and the themes that were being presented, and the relative darkness and the clinical style of some of those themes, they toned down the colors because it was a contrast. Now, the reason why Star Trek 2, 3, and forward look different is because those movies actually are 15 years later. So
Yeah.
there is a
Well, 2, 3, and 4 also take place within the span of the same few months or something,
for
right?
like a year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the whole timeline here. So, so the general plot of this movie can be summed up essentially in 2 or 3 sentences. An unidentified cloud that in the original version they say is 82 AUs in diameter. That is as big as our solar system. 1 AU is the distance from the Earth to the sun. In later, or in the director's edition, they realized how large that was, and they cut 82 to over 2.
Okay.
So they overdubbed that line.
Huh.
So and that is much more conceivable, even when you think about the path that the Enterprise takes into the cloud and into the ship. That's much more correct. So this unidentified cloud registering huge amounts of power and radiation come into the galaxy. It attacks some Klingons, and it's on a direct path towards Earth.
Correct me if I'm wrong real quick, but the Klingons that it attacks, that's the first time you see sort of the more classic, modern interpretation of the ridged head of the Klingons. Yeah. Did that confuse people? Like, who the fuck are those? Because they were the bird of praise, but
those aren't bird of praise. Those are Katinga class.
what the fuck ever?
Katanga class or whatever they're called.
God damn it, they're Klingon
cruisers.
ships.
Yeah, they're cruisers.
Nerd, nerd. You start talking Klingon. You should have answered.
No,
you should have
I
rebuked
don't know
me in Klingon.
I do not know Klingon. Goddamn it. I do have a dictionary, but I don't know how to speak it.
A better to pray cannot fire when cloaked. That was like
That's-
my combination of my Scotty and my Chekhov there. That was terrible.
That was really bad. So this was the first time. Although, remember how movies were released back then? There would be a lot of ephemera that would go out
Sure,
first.
yeah. That's-
Programs, TV specials, stuff like that. So, I'm sure there were some people who maybe didn't see any of that stuff that might have thought, "Who the fuck are these people?"
Yeah.
But it was a welcome change.
Sure.
Really, Klingons in the 60s were dudes in blackface.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
brown
yeah.
face.
Yeah.
Not blackface, but brown face. There's a whole story behind what the ridge heads and the smooth heads and what they're.
Oh yeah. Are they supposed to be different versions of Klingons too?
Kind of.
Yeah.
The ridge heads were originally the warrior class, because most of the time that you saw
Is this canon?
Klingons.
Is this canon?
Maybe. It gets a little fuzzy around canon with Star Trek.
Yeah.
No, there were two different classes. The smooth heads, I think, were ridge heads. I think they had surgery to look more governmental to the Federation, and the ridge heads were typically the.
So they were the emissaries, if you will, the
Kind
ambassadors.
of, but they were still assholes.
Well, sure,
But
they
they
were,
were, right. But the ridge heads were the warrior class, and they ended up overthrowing them, I think, or something like that. It's hard to say, so I might be a little fuzzy on it. Something like that.
You've read the history of the Klingons in the original Klingon, right?
No, God damn it! I just go to the website Memory Alpha, and when I want to know something Star Trek-y,
but you read it in Klingon.
No, there's no Klingon.
Can you
option.
translate it to Klingon?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
I actually owned the Klingon dictionary when I was a kid.
So shut up.
Yeah.
So
for about a week, I went around talking in Klingon until my mom told me to stop talking in made up languages because I might summon the devil. That is fucking true story.
That's amazing.
That is a fucking true
I
story.
love that.
Isn't that
I
amazing?
love that story. I love that story. I love it. I mean, if anything, if you end up conjuring a Klingon, that's fucking
rad. It would look like the devil to my mom.
Probably, yeah.
She's like, I knew it.
I would rather be around Klingons than I would Romulans.
Yeah,
Romulans are bad dudes.
Romulans are shifty as fuck.
Yes, they are.
They're. I've always thought it was weird that they are basically the cousins of the Vulcans.
Yeah,
they look just like Vulcans, except they have like different haircuts,
different head cuts, and they do have a little bit of different bone structure in their foreheads. At least that's what the Next Generation did.
Those
too,
crazy Romulans make good ale though.
Yeah, illegal.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I think that it's just illegal because it's like a tariff.
It's potent.
It's like
it's probably tariffs. Yeah,
it's they put restrictions.
The Space Trump put tariffs.
Yeah, it's fucking Space Trump. That's why that shit's illegal.
Yeah,
everybody wants it. It's like Cuban cigars.
Yeah. So anyway, so basically the Enterprise, of course, because this is the tropiest of Trek tropes, is the only Federation class starship.
Oh yeah.
In interception range. The Federation's home base is our planet. And there's no other. I mean, that shit should be crowded.
Yeah.
Of ships. I mean, at the very least, some sort of blockade runners.
Yeah, at least one ship that was actually not being refitted at the moment. Like it had actually passed inspections and shit.
Yeah.
But
where's the other Constitution class ships that finished the refit?
But that's also what I love about this movie the most.
Yeah.
I love the ragtag Enterprise. Like the ship's not finished. Shit is fucking up. It's fucking up so badly that it kills people.
It kills people. Yeah.
So, I love that. That scene
that's some grisly
is
stuff.
Grisly as hell.
Yeah.
They don't even have to show you the remains. Just what they say.
And their screams.
On the other side, their screams. It's like they're totally Cronenberged out on the other side of that transporter.
Because it's fortunate they didn't live long.
Yeah. That's harrowing.
Yeah. And they can't fly fast enough to intercept this thing. They got to figure that shit out. Thank God Spock shows up.
Yeah, which he just like ambushes them basically.
Yeah.
He just shows up like sneaks up behind him, docks, and gets on board. Like, to the point where he gets on the bridge.
Yeah.
And Kirk had no idea it was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
And then he started doing everybody's job. Yeah. Kirk is out of sorts. The only person who seemingly is doing their jobs properly, the only two people are Sulu and Uhura. Everybody else is out of sorts. They're out of practice. They're contentious with one another.
You would argue that Decker is doing his job at a peak level. He's just a different type of leader than Kirk.
But he also holds a lot over Kirk's head, which, not to say that that's not due in certain circumstances in which Kirk's orders would have killed everybody.
Right.
But he is
He's
smarmy about it.
He's a bit petulant.
Yes.
But not. I don't find him to
Although
be.
he does have my favorite line.
I don't
in the
find
whole
him
damn
to be
movie.
annoyingly petulant. I find him.
No.
I find
no.
him to be.
He betters Kirk in the end.
Yeah.
He has my favorite line when they get out of the wormhole. And Kirk's like reprimanding him, and he's like telling him, "It's like, well, no, actually, this new design does this, 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 and this. You didn't know that." And he's like, "You saved the ship," and he's like, "Well, I'm quite aware of that."
Yeah. He's a bit smug.
Yeah, he
yeah,
is.
but that was a moment he earned.
He earned that moment. He proved himself to everyone that his knowledge and his opinion means something. And Kirk fucks up one more time, does not take his advice, and it kills Ilea.
Yeah, but
People die in this movie.
you would argue though that it was the right move in that case, because while it did kill a crew member, I think it was essential for them to discover what they needed to discover to ultimately save the day. I think it would have lost time.
Yeah, and in the end,
losing
it totally
that,
works
and
out
losing,
for Decker.
and losing the, oh yeah, he merges with his space babe.
I don't know if they merge. I just think they're having space sex all over in a different plane of existence.
Yeah, it's a type of sex that transcends time and space. We have no concept of it. We could never understand it.
I feel like with Persis Kambata, that's possible. I mean, she's Indian. She probably knows the Kama Sutra.
Fair.
That's on another plane of existence, right?
Yeah.
Did this nice gams?
Did this start? Did this start like a bald thing for you too? Like
it didn't start
into puberty.
It's mostly just her.
Okay.
She's a tight little package. I know that sounded really, really gross the way I said, but it's true. Like she is small, but yet also kind of almost tall.
Decker in his unitard had a tight little package.
Yeah, that tis true. Tis true. Yeah. So I mean, okay. What the Enterprise ends up finding out is that this is a machine that was sent from Earth, fell into what we once called a black hole. I like that line too. That's another high sci-fi idea. Well, it used to be called what's it called now? I mean, it seems like that is the same thing. Anyway, if they have wormholes, they should have black holes. Anyway, beside the point.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's high. It's higher than my intellect can consume.
It's beyond us.
It's beyond us. It is well beyond us.
What year does this movie take place in?
The 2270s.
Okay.
I've got the timeline. I'm getting there.
Okay.
No, this it's a ship that was it was a satellite sent from Earth. It went into a black hole, came out on the other side of wherever galaxy, universe. I can't remember exactly how they described it. Found by a machine planet of living machines, took its programming to heart, and sent it back to Earth.
It was like, little buddy.
Yeah.
It was like little buddy.
Oh God, it probably showed up in probably like these robots were thinking like, oh my God, look how cute.
It
this
probably
thing
looked like
Can we
Wall-E to
keep
them.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a puppy.
Yeah.
But let's see if we can give it its purpose.
Yeah. So it sends it back. The problem is that it takes everything too literally. It also thinks because it was essentially reprogrammed, sent back by the machine planet, that the machines don't recognize carbon life forms as real things.
Right.
So much like we don't think of machinery as real living things. So it does not have regard for anything other than what it expects to find, which is a machine. Now it thinks the Enterprise is while it's infested with people with carbon-based life forms, it does think of it as a kindred thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that. Okay. So I wrote down some.
I wonder if that would be the fan fiction. What's the Autobots home planet.
Cybertron.
It's like our little Voyager 12 went to Cybertron.
It was 6. Voyager 6.
I thought it was 12.
6.
Oh, all right. Sorry, I haven't seen this movie
in like an hour.
Well, still, like the little details.
That's a big detail.
But I knew it was
Voyager 6.
It was Voyager 12, 6, whatever. Doesn't matter.
No, it registered 12th power, meaning power on to the 12th degree.
Again, I have not seen this movie nearly as many times as you.
Whatever.
But yes.
Especially recently. I've seen this
Voyager 6.
Voyager 6. Okay, no, there is actually, you want to know Gene Roddenberry's fan fiction?
Yeah.
It was sent back by the Borg.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
That would make
that this was a Borg story, essentially.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. He does too. Or he did too.
Huh.
I kind of do too.
Yeah.
It's, because it, I mean, of course we don't really know what the Borg originated as. Did this jumpstart that? Or were they in a middle of evolution that ultimately, yeah, anyway.
I like that. Star Trek always does interesting things like that. I forget who wrote the book. There was a book, though, a Star Trek book, where they kind of like retconned Q into the very first episode of Star Trek, the original series, like that entity that Pike succumbed to. I can't remember it very well.
Not Pike. I know what you're talking about.
Captain Pike?
No, Pike was he was kept in a menagerie by a butt-headed alien called the Telosians. Mm-hmm. Wow, I know a lot about Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'm not gonna try.
No, I know what you're talking about though.
It's
Where No Man Has Gone Before. That episode. Friend of Kirk's and Sally Kellerman was the co-star in that also. That guy is who you're.
That's who I'm thinking of.
That's who you're thinking of. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that idea.
It's interesting. Yeah,
because he certainly becomes omniscient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I can dig it.
Nifty.
So some of the themes. I mean, gosh, I have 4 real ones and a 5th super real one. So in this movie, we have themes of obsession. A lot of people obsessed with a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which also drives their desire. Spock maybe is the one with the most desire when he's not supposed to be feeling anything. Spock, in his time off from the end of the 5-year mission till now, which is about 3 years, he went back home to Vulcan and was going to go through what was called the Kolinar, and that was to purge.
Sounds like a lily drug.
Yeah, right.
For
erectile dysfunction
for early colon cancer detection.
Purge your emotions with Kolinar.
Probe it with this.
Yeah. So yeah, he comes back and he's still not really with a whole lot of emotion, but he's driven by an obsessive desire to understand what this V'ger thing is that he sensed. Yeah, I mean, anyway, Kirk desires the Enterprise back.
It's curiosity too.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a more sort of human curiosity.
Yeah. There is an existence or an existential.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a very existentialist movie.
Yeah. I mean, V'ger's sole evolution its sole purpose is to answer the questions it's starting to ask itself and ask everything, because it has become aware of its own existence, and that is this all that I am? Yeah. What is it that, who created me? These are all things that real living things start to ask. Also, obviously, creation is talked about a lot, because that's where you get into those big, grand, long shots, and that's where I would categorize size. If you think of all of quote unquote creation, it's a big thing, right? In science fiction movies, we never really saw size quite like this before.
There's something interesting about that point that just kind of clicked in my head. is you have the scene that I've kind of derided a little bit, made fun of a little bit with the docking scene where Kirk is going to the retrofitted Enterprise with Scotty, and it's a bit gratuitous. It's perhaps self-indulgent and showing you the Enterprise from every conceivable angle. But what I actually kind of like about it, now that I think about it, is it's sort of setting up. You look how grand this is. Wait till you see fucking V'ger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they even show it in terms of, so you see the Enterprise leaving. It's leaving from Earth out of the space dock. It flies by Jupiter. Things are getting bigger and big. And
it's almost essential now that I think about it.
And then it goes into the nothingness.
I still think you kind of get the point.
Yeah.
At a certain point, but I kind of get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like by the time they get to the cloud, which is just unbelievably large. I mean, yeah.
And they may go way out of their way to show you this tiny outline, itty little bitty Enterprise floating across the screen.
Yeah. And it's, and also you got to think there are people inside of that.
Right, which I love. There's a shot where they've just entered V'ger, and there's it's the little tiny Enterprise that's cutting across, and it takes it probably a good halfway across the screen from where it shows it and where it ends. And what I love about it is it then hard cut onto the bridge. Yeah. Right? I love that. It's like where I'm so far out here and I'm right back in there.
Right.
And I know exactly where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff
it's almost a relief.
Yeah.
To get back onto the bridge.
Yeah, because it's that thing that sometimes a really good filmmaker can do, or a really good designer can do, which is make you feel claustrophobic in a great big space.
Yes.
Space be scary,
you feel helpless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of scenes of people just floating out in space. It's like, I don't like that.
No.
It makes me it tightens my chest. I feel like I'm trapped. I'm lost.
It's like extreme agoraphobia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's to the infinite
degree. Yeah. Quite literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's awesome.
It is awesome.
It's real awesome.
It's very awesome.
But but there are even things like when you're flying by, you're like, remember seeing those like things that look like eyeballs in V'ger? It's like, what the fuck are those for?
Yeah. Right.
And it's like then you see
like the glowy things.
Yeah. Like when they were flying in that ravine, basically, it looks like the ship looks like a planet.
Yeah.
Like there are and this stuff used to freak me out as a kid. It's like, this looks like hell.
Yeah.
And I had a concept of hell because I saw the black hole.
Right.
And you got to see hell.
They all go to hell at the end of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maximilian raising his fucking little robot arms in the air.
I know.
We're in hell now.
I know.
It's scary. It's scary.
It's scary
Talk
stuff.
about it. That's shit.
That's scary when you're a kid.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But that's interesting because I think that I don't remember if we talked about this in our black hole episode, but that sort of idea of this infinite unknown, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously 2001: A Space Odyssey, the black hole, this movie, all kind of explore that. It's not like space is enough, Yeah,
I mean, this is all of everything.
Yeah. It's a terrifying concept.
Yeah, and I think that's what one of the things we're supposed to feel with Dave in 2001, right? When he's going through the Stargate. And it's you're receiving so much information that your brain can't even process it.
Yeah.
To tell you a story, I've always been interested in space things. I don't want to go to space, but I want to see pictures of planets. I want to know what's out there.
I go back and forth on that.
Well, if I could just if I never have to be floating out in space, I could probably get on something to get on something to get on something and then go someplace.
I'm with you on that. I want to be in
I don't want to.
I don't want to be floating in space.
I agree with Dr. McCoy. I ain't getting on that fucking transporter. I don't want my molecules scrambled all over the place. God, DeForest Kelly's so good in this movie.
Yes.
Everybody's really good in this movie. God, there's so much we need to talk about here.
I do not.
So yeah, the story I was going to say is I've always been interested in space stuff. Now, my ex-wife Amy was never interested in space. Didn't care. Didn't have any care for it. And the reason why, and she'll be very honest with it, is she can't comprehend the size of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when she can't comprehend that, she shuts it off.
Yeah.
And I understand that. There's a lot of people like that. And this movie does everything it can to show you that size. That, I mean, they were talking about, like, there's a passage of time in this movie too. Like, shortly after they pass Jupiter, they say they've been X number of minutes outside of dry dock, but it was only seconds in the movie. But it's like, oh my God, it took them that long to get that far, and they have to go where? How fast? It's there is an element of size. My super real thing, the concept in this movie I wanted to talk about was the fact that wanting to have sex with mechanisms.
Yes.
Because Decker definitely wanted to stick his Decker into that Ilea robot.
Yes, he did. I mean, she already sort of seemed like a robot when she wasn't one. She's very she seemed like an empath would seem.
Yeah, there is a cutout scene in one of the versions where she removes Chekhov's pain when he gets electrocuted.
Yeah.
On the hand there. So yeah, she does have a little bit of empathic.
Because the empaths,
Deltons also can make people fall in love with them.
They feel your emotion.
Yeah.
And they could probably transfer it back to you.
Yes.
But when they're not, they always kind of seem flat in sci-fi.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, an interesting thing. Before we saw this as a Fathom event. By the way, this is coming out around Thanksgiving time. We saw this back in September.
Yeah.
The little they showed the little featurette about writing this movie, and that's fascinating.
It was,
and we'll get to that background here in just a minute. But one of the things that they said was they had like 13 scripts when and they were still working on scripts when Paramount's like, oh yeah, by the way, this is going to be a movie now. So the scripts that they had left over, they just transferred it over to Star Trek Next Generation. Yeah. So if you sit and watch this movie and you are a fan of Next Generation, you'd probably think, gosh, Decker and Ilea look an awful lot like Commander Riker and Counselor Troy. And yes, absolutely.
You mean Ilea looks a lot like Captain Picard?
Well, okay, look. Yeah. They look a lot like Captain Picard.
Come on, I'm here for the jokes, folks.
Yes. I'm trying to have a real serious conversation. I know there's one fan out there who really wants to hear the serious shit about this movie, Jason.
And that's interesting, though. I didn't think about that, though, but that is very true. Yeah.
So I guess maybe we should talk about the timeline of like how the genesis of this movie came about.
Sure, yeah.
So in 1969, of course, the TV series was canceled. It had really, really low. It had a very strong fan base, but a really low ratings. So it didn't have many viewers, but those viewers were loyal. And it was around that time that Roddenberry was pushing Paramount to make a movie. And that first movie was going to be kind of a prequel series, how everybody met each other. Ultimately, it's what J.J. Abrams gave us.
Yeah.
But Paramount's like, no, there's just no conceivable way. Sometime around 74, 75 or so, the syndication popularity not only had, and also you had like an animated series.
Yeah.
That animated series is fantastic. But Paramount's like, you know what? It's popular enough. There are conventions of people now. It's like, yeah, let's make a movie. And then they started like cranking out scripts for whatever they could get. And I think Ray Bradbury actually had a story at one point. I could be wrong on that, but basically they had a couple of ideas, one of which we heard about tonight that I didn't know about, which was
the Titans one? Planet of the Titans.
Well, okay, Planet of the Titans one is kind of silly.
That's real silly.
That's not the one I was talking about. The one I was talking about was the God thing.
Oh yeah, which but they said kind of became Star Trek 5.
Right, but
The
that
God thing.
Paramount was like, no.
Yeah.
Because the guy who's the head of Paramount is like a devout Catholic. And it's
yeah.
like, nope, we can't make that movie. So then,
But they kind of did.
well, they kind of did, but real shittily.
Well, no, but they even kind of did with motion picture. But they sort
Yes.
of flipped
So-
it on its head. Like
Yeah.
humans ended up being the machine of the gods, or the god on the machines.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which, really, if you think about it, think about where we are right now and how close we are to AI being, like I've always said, the next social issue will be how we treat AI
Uh-huh.
and whether or not we should have a relationship with an AI.
And that's really what this movie starts to explore.
It starts to explore that idea, and this
It's
was
the
40 fucking
It's
years
like the
ago.
genesis of it.
Yeah.
The genesis. In the Star Trek universe,
Right.
Because you imagine, like, I don't know what the fuck is Data, right?
Yeah.
They
And this did borrow also from an episode called The Changeling, where a robot had kind of basically gained sentience. So yeah, I mean, this was borrowing from concepts that were being either developed for Star Trek or had been an episode or whatever.
And I mean, Philip K. Dick had been writing about this already. Yeah, I mean, these aren't like crazy new ideas, but
Right.
but within the Star Trek universe, it's sort of
Well, it was taking it from heady sci-fi and initially was trying to distill it into a Star Trek universe while still retaining the key elements of that heady sci-fi.
sure.
So with the scripting troubles that came along by 1977, like Paramount's like, no, it's like there's also design problems. Like Ralph McQuarrie, who did the Star Wars designs, was brought in to design stuff without a script or without any kind of story idea. So he's just like, I was just told to wing it. Kind of basically give us some sort of conceptual parallel to what we had already done. But I mean, and some of his drawings are out there, you can see, and they are pretty close to Star Trek. What's interesting is now they're being used more for like Discovery.
Okay.
Like the shape of that ship is very Ralph McQuarrie designed. But anyway, so then Star Wars makes it basically impossible for cerebral sci-fi to ever exist again. But so then Paramount's like, okay, we're taking it back to TV.
It created the first nerd fight. Star Trek versus Star Wars. Nerd fight is on.
Yeah, I'm Star Trek.
I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle.
You're a referee.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in the middle.
So Paramount's like, okay, we're gonna bring this back to TV. We were crazy to think about doing it as a TV show. This isn't this isn't chic anymore. Let's just bring it back to TV. So they created something called Star Trek 2 or Star Trek Phase 2. They had started writing a bunch of scripts, and then Close Encounters comes out, and they're like, oh, you know what? We can make a sci-fi theme that does not involve spaceships blowing each other up, pew-pews, and what have yous. So then from 78 to 79, they started making the movie. They started scripting it. They took the 2-hour pilot for Phase 2. We're going to turn that into a movie. Then they plan on just making it with their television production team, and which was all fine and dandy, but the problem with that is that the sci-fi people for TV are very different than the sci-fi people for the movie. So they had to get rid of them and start from scratch.
Got to bring in a ringer.
You got to bring in a ringer. Plus, actors were starting to exercise control that they had from their scripts into, they had to give the okay for stories to go a certain direction in this movie. So then, they were given a $20 million budget, and
Hold on a second. I want to talk about that real quick because I find that fascinating.
okay,
the fact that a contract clause kicked in for Shatner and Nimoy, that they had essentially script approval.
Yeah. Actually, I think that may have been the only reason why Nimoy did the movie, was he didn't want to do this movie. And Paramount was like, well, we can go on without him. And they were going to take the guy who was on Epsilon 9. He was going to be
That makes sense.
a new Vulcan named Zahn.
Yeah.
And that guy ended up instead in the movie The Hearse.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
In my B-Movie Enema article for that,
that's
I
that
make
guy.
a bunch of jokes
It's totally that guy.
about him being that commander dude from Epsilon 9.
I just think it's a funny image to me of Shatner and Nimoy, having a beer or something, and laughing about the fact that they can't get their shit together at Paramount, and that they're gonna get to come in and get script approval, and I'm sure that like tickled them to death.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paramount was all in at this point. It's like, we've spent $20 million. We're going to make this movie. It's going to make Star Wars money. At the very least, it needs to make Close Encounters money. We're in. But getting the new sci-fi team in, which consisted of Douglas Trumbull, who I think did 2001.
Yep.
John Dykstra, who did Star Wars.
Yep.
And then you had Richard Yursich. And he was a big...
Trumbull won Academy Awards for both this and 2001, didn't he?
He did.
Did he win for this?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that was one of 2001's.
Yeah, because that was the only
special effects.
Yeah, that was the only Oscar that Kubrick ever won, because he shared that with Kubrick. Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother discussion, but
sure.
And the thing is that Trumbull didn't want to do the special effects for this because he wanted to make his own movie.
Yeah.
Well, when that movie's production shut down, he then came over and was like, all right, you got me. Give me control and I'll do it.
What was he trying to make? Do you remember?
I don't remember. But he wanted to be a serious film director.
Well, yeah, he had made the movie with Bruce Stern, sci-fi.
Silent Running?
Silent Running, yeah.
Yeah.
That was in 72.
So anyway, they brought these guys in and they were going to get the special effects they wanted. The problem was that now the movie became the second most expensive movie ever. The year before, Superman was made for $50 million. Star Trek Motion Picture was made for $46 million. It's
kind of hard to believe that this movie came after Superman. It just feels...
Well, again, it's how do you make this movie after Star Wars and Superman with what they showed you can do with special effects, and this movie is a cerebral, slower movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all part of that mystique of how did they really think this movie was going to do? Yeah,
and plus now we're becoming accustomed to these big action blockbuster films. Yeah.
Well, not only that, this movie's bloated too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this movie's 2 hours and 13 minutes or something like that. So it's pricey, it's slow, and it's long.
Yep.
Now, granted, Star Wars was 2 hours.
It makes you use your noggin.
And Superman is super long, but those are action movies. Those are adventure movies.
Makes you use your brain probe.
Yeah, your brain probe, your brain bits, all of that's being used in this movie, and that's not accustomed to blockbuster.
Right.
I mean, Close Encounters was a blockbuster because of Spielberg. He taps into things that, and Spielberg, they tried to get him for this movie.
Yeah.
But Robert Wise, I would say, is still a really good choice. I mean, he made the Andromeda Strain. Mm-hmm. That's a phenomenal slow sci-fi movie. He made The Day the Earth Stood Still. That's another phenomenal sci-fi movie that makes your brain bits work.
Yep.
And he could handle the size of this movie. I mean, he's twice won Academy Awards for grand musicals with really big.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah. I mean, he was
West Side Story, right?
And Sound of Music,
which is weird that Spielberg is making West Side Story. It's just, what the fuck? That is weird. But it's kind of like that sort of circle of creativity is strange to me.
Right.
You know, that Spielberg had been tapped at one point to make this movie, Star Trek. It's so interesting.
Right. And which is probably why J.J. Abrams makes Star Trek now.
If Wise were still alive, he should like remake E.T. or something.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did in the afterlife.
Maybe he did.
But anyway, now in December of 1979, this movie I think came out the 7th of December, but the premiere was in Washington, D.C. like, I don't know, December 1st or November 30th or something like that. And Robert Wise shows up with the print that was finished 2 days before that. I mean, they never tested this movie.
That's crazy to think. They didn't even run it through a fucking projector.
They ran it through projectors for like work prints for people who were making the
final
movie.
Print. It's to think. Oh, hope it's
the first time anybody saw this movie in its completed form was in an audience, essentially.
That's nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, but the movie still performed very well. Didn't get very good reviews. Fans were mixed on it.
Yeah, right. I think the fan perception was lukewarm as well.
Yeah, but I think that the thing was that people went back for the visuals.
Yeah.
Because this movie is damn pretty.
Yeah.
And that score is damn pretty.
I imagine this was a bit of a stoner film, too.
Oh, probably. Oh, God, yeah. There's several moments where, like, you're going through that wormhole.
Oh,
you're
my
going
God.
through V'ger.
The wormhole in the V'ger
You're
alone.
checking out the bald chick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in honesty, it gives you more of the stoner that people that would go to see 2001: A Space Odyssey for.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also, not only that, it's telling you what you need to know. Whereas 2001 is like, nope, you're out in the cold. If you don't get it, tough. See you later.
It's giving your brain bits little things to latch onto.
Right. And, this is just Robert Wise making 2001, really. So movie comes out. It's largely talked about, at least, because it's like, can you believe they made this movie? Or can you believe I love this movie this much? You know, because the people who like this movie don't just kind of like it.
Yeah.
They love it. And the people who don't like this movie are they infest Enterprise.
They infest fandom.
They infest fandom. No, I mean, I've talked about, like, it boggles my, like, if you're not a Star Trek fan, you're allowed to not like this movie. If you're a Star Trek fan, like a real Star Trek, like a real sci-fi fan,
I think
you should get this movie.
I think probably, but to be fair, people like things about things that are different from what you like. What things that you like about things? You know
I don't care.
And I think where that sort of fandom, I think it's okay for people, for fans of Star Trek, to not like this movie.
There is one other thing that I will give credence to.
But if they can't talk intellectual criticism about it, or all they do is it's boring, then yeah, you have a point.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that a few people will say, yeah, I get the themes, I get all this. What I miss in this movie is the characters that I saw on TV that I know.
Yeah.
This movie
and
is
I think that's where my dad came from.
Yeah, because
place.
like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are not a tight trio anymore.
Right.
They've gone off and done other things separate from each other, and
they've
grown apart.
It feels so real.
Yeah.
I could just... Man,
another thing
real.
that I like about this movie is that this is real. I mean,
but we've had, as an audience, we've had time apart from them as well when this movie comes out, and so we have to get reacquainted with who they've become. I mean, it's very smart writing.
Yes. Now, the big thing that happens, and the reason why this movie is celebrating 40 years, really, is ABC comes along and it's like, hey, it's 1983. I think it's summer. At the very least, nothing's going on. There weren't no Sunday night football back then. We need 3 hours to fill this Sunday night with a movie. Hey, Star Trek, Star Trek the Motion Picture, we'll grab that. oh, well, it doesn't quite fit 3 hours after we put commercials in. You've got some deleted scenes. We'll just throw them all in, and the movie's like 13 minutes longer. There's a problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is the 1979 film version that we watched tonight incomplete in the mind of Robert Wise, ABC recut the movie with all those extra scenes without asking Robert Wise or Paramount. Really, Paramount's just like, whatever. We're counting our monies at this point. Robert Wise is like, what the fuck are you doing in my movie?
You're kind of like putting really heavy anchors on it and just dragging it under.
Yes, and now the funny thing is that all that extra stuff, people really liked it because it smoothed out some stuff.
Yeah,
there are certain scenes in that are cut out that a couple of them Robert Wise did put back in. Like there is a little bit more context around Crotch the Old McCoy not wanting to get into the and how basically Kirk forced the beaming, the transport to take him basically
to locate him and beam him on.
Basically, like because these other people come in, he was supposed to be part of this group, and this girl is like, yeah, he refuses to get on the transport, and Kirk's like, oh, I'll show him.
Well, considering what just happened, I don't think I'd want to get on the transporter either.
It's like, can I get one of those fucking shuttles?
The people who just transported before him turned into Cronenbergs.
Yeah. But
their insides became their outsides.
Yes.
I think that would pretty much turn me off transporting forever.
Yeah, I take my chances on the Galileo shuttle. That always fucking crashed.
I mean, hitch a ride with Spock.
Hey, Spock, can you hear this?
Pick me up here.
Yeah, pick me up. So the but a couple of other things it does. At one point near the end, Spock begins weeping on the bridge. This is before they really see V'ger. And Kirk knows he's not crying for the crew of the Enterprise, even though they're not out of the woods yet. He's weeping for V'ger because V'ger has no one, has nobody to go to, no father figure, no brother, no friend, no anything to ask these questions to. It's all alone in the universe. And that really adds a lot of depth to this struggle of gaining purpose and sentience and understanding.
Does that happen after he goes out on his own?
Yeah.
And he gets brought back in by Kirk? That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Kirk already knows that Spock has some connection to understanding what V'ger is going through. And it's not that Kirk is mad at it. He gets it, that it's like, and this is before he says that V'ger's a child and you have to treat it as such.
Right.
To basically lie to V'ger and bluff it to say, oh, we've got what V'ger needs. You got to take us to him, and you got to pull back all these fucking things that will destroy everything on the planet. And it calls his bluff. That was pretty awesome because Kirk bluffed his ass off all through 3 years of TV and some cartoons, and he got called on it this time. But anyway.
I mean, he did and he didn't.
Well, V'ger just wasn't going to budge on having those
It learns quick, doesn't it? Yes. Yeah. But still, it did what Kirk needed it to do, which was buy him some time so he could get more information
so you can figure out
to make a more intelligent choice.
Everybody thinks that Kirk is some kind of gung-ho action man. Kirk is not. He never has been. That is a caricature. That's a caricature of a character that people would rather be the jump in bed with a green lady, just go up and punch a guy when he can't get his way.
Oh, that's a great line when Aaliyah mentions her vow of chastity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dalton's like the fuck. I mean, but anyway.
I almost took it though as like she was picking something up from Kirk.
No, it's yeah.
And she's like, "Whoa, buddy."
Yeah, no, it's not so much that. It's there's a whole
We don't need to get into
anyway,
it, but that was the way I took that.
Deltas
which
can't
made me
just be
chuckle,
around humans.
because they want to sex it up.
You go to Delta 4 on your shore leave to let loose a little bit of the foot soldiers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's the port.
Yeah. Anyway. But the longer version proved to be super, super popular because it helped pull out a little bit more that I think people were missing.
All right.
So Paramount's like, fuck yeah, we're going to release this on VHS and Laserdisc. And for years, that was the home video version of that movie.
That's probably what I saw then.
Probably.
Growing up.
It wasn't until 2001 that Wise finally did his director's version. They took it basically from his recollection of what he wanted, from storyboards and from what existed. They made certain things that didn't look quite as good because of the time constraint. They refreshed all that shit. You talk about like how bad some of the Star Wars special edition stuff looks. This thing integrated so perfectly that this will never happen again. How perfect everything seems, because like they ended up doing it where they refreshed all the effects on the Star Trek original series on Blu-ray, and you can still watch it the original version, but I don't mind watching but I can definitely tell that's like that shit's not from the 60s.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that they do with this does look like it could have been 1970, considering how all the rest of it looks.
Right.
That's the advantage of having so many special effects masters basically working on this. So really, the 2001 version was released on DVD at that point. So you had the opportunity to watch the theatrical, the longer, or the extended version, or the director's version by 2001. The problem was that the only one that Paramount turned into a high definition was the original theatrical version. All the other ones are currently essentially standard definition. Sure. Now you can see them, but they are standard definition. There have been people who have done their damnedest to try to get the director's edition as much into the HD as possible, but everybody's hoping that the popularity of the 40th anniversary might push an actual restoration.
You would think. I mean, some of the movies that
I'd buy it in
4K
a heartbeat.
scans even. I mean,
I'd buy it.
It just seems like a no-brainer to do this in a 4K.
With the way this movie looks,
yeah.
I would buy that movie in the eventual need, probably, to ultimately buy a 4K Blu-ray player. Mm-hmm. My TV's 4K.
Yeah.
So, it's like I'm halfway there.
Well, I mean, you got the Ultra HD now,
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I mean, hell, if they released it Ultra HD, then I can just watch it digitally.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway. So this movie has seen quite a bit of life in quite a lot of different forms. There are videos on YouTube out there that document every single change. Some of the director's edition rearranges some of the scenes, particularly when Spock is concerned about the Ilea probe being an untrustworthy source of information. So he's planning on going out and finding it himself. They rearranged some of those scenes to where he goes out before certain things that they discuss on the ship with Ilea.
I liked how they did that in the theatrical cut, because there's this sense of Spock isn't who we remember him as he was. He is committed seemingly to this complete annihilation of his human self.
Yeah.
Right? He has essentially like boarded the Enterprise by stealth, right? To insert himself into this mission for his own benefit.
Yeah.
Which he makes no bones about. no bones about.
Ah.
And it's also mentioned several times that he may be untrustworthy because of his own self-interest.
There is a great scene.
So when he does the neck pinchy thing, right? To which that guy is like he outdoes them all.
The 70s was?
Yeah. Well, when the guy that gets Vulcan neck pinched by Spock, the way he does the go limp and crumple, turn and crumple. Oh, it's magnificent. But at that
he's
point,
very 70s.
At that point in time, you're sort of with Kirk. It's like I can't imagine that he would ever put his own interest before the ship and the crew.
Well, he is still half Vulcan,
but
it wouldn't be logical.
But that scene works so well because of how they've set it up.
Yes,
and you're still not sure.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Also, there's a great scene. So yeah, you're talking about like how Spock comes clean, and it's like, hey, I've been sensing this thing. It was calling to me. I'm here now because I need to know what's going on here. And Kirk is like, so you'll make sure you tell me anything you feel, right? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then Bones is the one that's like, it's like, how do we know that he's not? And that's when Kirk basically finishes that line that like put his interests ahead of the ship's. I just can't believe that. Later, when Decker's like, hey, we're trapped in this tractor beam.
Yeah.
Shoot a phaser beam right there in the center. It might give us enough time to break free. And Spock's like, break free to where?
Right.
It's futile to show any resistance.
Why wouldn't you even try?
Why would you?
Decker says.
And why wouldn't? Why are you so opposed to trying?
Right.
And Kirk and McCoy share a look.
Share a look, yeah.
Where neither one have to say a damn thing, and we're like, haha, yes.
We're thinking the same thing.
It's like,
is he on the level or not?
Right. And McCoy 100% is suspect of every goddamn thing on this fucking mission. He didn't even want to fucking be there, and and
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Yeah, and he was at some space disco.
Oh,
with his medallion.
Absolutely, he was. He was getting down, man.
Yeah, and he got drafted.
Yep. That's a great joke. I was drafted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's so fucking good in this movie. Everybody is so good in this movie. I think William Shatner, the impersonations of William Shatner became most people's reality of him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he showed this on Boston Legal, right? Boston Legal,
yes.
Yeah. That he can really act.
Sure.
And you really don't have to go any further than the 3 seasons of Star Trek and Star Trek's 1 through 4. And 6. 5 is a mess. But 5 is not my least favorite, though.
Generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I fucking hate that movie. And I hate it because of what they do to Kirk.
Yeah. That's what, yeah.
Fucking Rick Berman. Anyway. But no, it's nobody can trust each other.
Yeah.
In this movie. It takes a long time for people to feel like they're all on the same page.
It's interesting too because Kirk,
and also you're on a ship going someplace to stop something from destroying your planet. You can't be trying to suss out if everybody's on the same page as long as they do. It really makes this movie dangerous. Yeah, in the sense that like they're in peril the entire movie.
Yeah. And Kirk shows, and I think this comes through in Shatner's portrayal, is Kirk shows a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like he recognizes that he needs McCoy by his side. Like he needs
his bros.
When Spock shows up, he recognizes that he needs Spock, right? To begin, when he takes over command of the Enterprise, you feel like he's maybe a little cocksure. It's cocksure Kirk, but he quickly comes down to where he's feeling a little out of place. He can't find the transporters,
Well,
he can't
find Turbo Lift 8,
right?
And
and
that's a moment of humility. For
and
him.
when McCoy comes into the room when Kirk is about to dress down Decker after Decker blazes order.
Yeah.
McCoy makes the comment to him about, this is an obsession for you.
Yeah.
And Kirk hears that.
Mm-hmm.
And he reflects on that immediately.
Well, and the thing is the way they end that scene too, with those shaded doors, kind of, Kirk's out in the dark. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know how to run the ship. He doesn't know the people that he needs to rely on the most is even with him.
Right.
And supporting him, and certainly his EO, his executive officer, XO, yeah. His he can't. They don't trust each other. It's bad news.
Right. Yeah.
And he's literally left in the dark at the end of that scene.
You know what's
That's good
weird?
stuff.
You know what's weird that I don't like is that they don't keep calling him Admiral. Like he
does get a grade reduction.
Oh, he actually did take a grade
yeah,
reduction.
so that was the whole thing. He was reduced to captain.
Because you could be an admiral and command a ship.
Well, he does in Star Trek 2 and 3.
Yeah, but I mean, in the
And 4.
military,
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, he can, right. In Star Trek 2, he is just there to oversee the shakedown of this new training crew.
Yeah.
And to check in on teacher Captain Spock. And when the shit hits the fan, Spock's like, "You're the superior. You're the you are my commanding officer. You have to take the ship." And he's reluctant to.
Yeah.
But it remains Admiral Captain. Now, what's weird is after Star Trek 4, there's Captain Kirk and Captain Spock on the same fucking ship. How do you explain that? I don't know. I don't care, but it works.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Everybody was becoming captain then. You had Captain Sulu eventually.
Scotty was Captain of Engineering.
Yep.
He was promoted to Captain of Engineering to control the engineering of the Excelsior.
Yeah.
And he would shared captaincy with whatever that dude's name was.
I don't remember, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
The guy who thought, oh, we're going to real easily catch the Enterprise. And Scotty, like, fucking sabotaged him. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, they do mention that transfer orders came over when he got there, and that he was given a grade reduction to lead this mission.
And he told Decker that his was a temporary grade reduction.
Yeah, because the idea was after this, Decker would take the Enterprise back and he'd go back to Starfleet operations.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's I think,
by the way, he was not truly.
But the
an
grade
admiral.
reduction is weird to me. It's like he could be a captain and Kirk could still be an admiral.
I think that was a. If I'm going to be listed as captain to command this ship, because technically also he skips 2 grades too, right? He goes from captain to rear admiral.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, I'm showing my dorkiness here, but the goddamn DC Comics who's who of Star Trek listed all of the rankings. He skipped fleet captain and commodore, so he was a rear admiral at the start of this.
But it was 10 years later?
No,
wasn't it?
2.5 years.
Oh, it was
later.
only 2.5 years later.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he basically took a desk job, and they talk about that in Star Trek 2, because he went back to being and by then I think he is a full admiral, because that's like 15 years later, or something, 13 years later or something.
Okay. Dork.
I wrote down the
timeline.
So 1964 was when the Cage was. That was Captain Pike.
Okay.
Kirk took over in 2266.
Okay.
2265. I'm sorry. He was around before the series started in 2266. Was 1966. It was always 300 years later. Late 2269 into early 2270 was the animated series.
Okay.
He stepped down after the animated series. Said Decker's the guy. His dad was a complete nutcase in that one Doomsday Machine episode where he flew into that fucking tunnel thing. They tried to take the Enterprise in there with him. Anyway, but he should be good. Star Trek Motion Picture is always listed as 2270s, but if you take the 2.5 years thing, it would be about 2272. 2285 through 2287 was Star Trek's 2 through 5. But considering how much everybody plumped up, those were a rough 2 years for everybody. 2293 was when Star Trek 6 happened and the beginning of Generations.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Kirk is presumed dead in 2293.
Cool.
Yeah. I really like this movie on a very cerebral level, and it's also very nostalgic for me. I told you going in, it's like this movie makes me feel good. It makes me feel like a little kid again. Part of it is the wonder of it, right? I mean, a lot of spacey eye candy. But, I mean, it's a movie that got better for me because I understand some of the themes better. I understand some of the ideas of the existential stuff, and I mean, because in a way, it does touch upon religion. I mean, you kind of mentioned that.
Absolutely. It really flips the whole idea of the God thing and reverses it.
Yeah,
which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, really, technically, as technology was growing, I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of doomsayers were saying that we were playing God and that was dangerous and we would be punished and all of that. I mean, hell, to this day, how many of the super evangelistic stuff or people out there are still worried about barcodes?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's a byproduct of technology that people are legitimately scared of. I mean, I remember the first time I heard of that, like in the late 80s or something. I looked at my friends like, what? Whatever. You know, it's like, what are you talking about, man? That's insane. It's like how are they going to scan my groceries when I'm going to buy a roll of sweet tarts?
Everybody's going to get a barcode.
Yeah.
They're going to be tattooed on you.
Yeah, the mark of the beast. No.
Yep.
We should just get drunk sometime and watch SOS.
What was that?
That's the really goofy worldwide church that like is a cult.
Oh,
essentially, they take all the stuff that the evangelists don't like, and they're like, hold my beers.
Oh man, I don't know
and
if
then they go even further down a rabbit hole.
Oh, it'll just make me weird and angry.
I don't know, man. It looks pretty goofy. I've watched a little bit of it. It's goofy. It's real goofy. But let me tell you about the good news of
SOS,
Star Trek the motion picture.
Star Trek the motion picture.
No, I mean, this is not a movie for everybody. It really isn't. It's hard to even know which Star Trek fans like this movie.
Yeah.
It's not an action movie. It's not Star Wars. You know, I mean, V'ger's not looking for the Force and has lightsabers and has a whole shit ton of TIE fighters flying out at the Enterprise. It's none of that. It's real deep, heavy shit. It's the real deep, heavy shit.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you'd like the real deep, heavy shit of it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Someday we'll get to Star Trek 2 and 3. I don't know. 2 probably deserves its own.
Yeah.
Even though 2, 3, and 4 are a trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, they all kind of deserve their own.
Yeah.
I really think so.
Yeah.
Except
so
5.
Come back next week. No, we're going to talk about 5 because 5 is fun. As I watched that recently, it is super fun. It is super. Maybe that can be a special.
The scene I always remember is the beginning, which I always love the beginning where they're camping.
Oh yeah,
with
bourbon
the
and beans are
boots and shit.
Yeah, bourbon and beans are an explosive combination.
I always loved that.
That's a
because
fart joke in Star Trek.
That is one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Trek because of it shows
it's the togetherness.
Those guys being buds.
Well, it's the whole concept of I knew I wasn't going to die because I was never alone.
Yeah.
Flipped around at the end when he is alone, but Spock commandeered that fucking bird of prey.
Yeah.
And it's like you weren't alone. And they just fucking trashed that shit in Generations.
Ugh. Yeah.
Because he was alone. And then he wasn't alone. And then fucking whatever.
Jerks.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we'll eventually get to the other Star Trek movies. I think certainly 2 and 3 and 4 deserve discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good movies.
Yes, they are. And I love 6 a lot.
6 is really good too.
I watched 6 just maybe a month ago, and man, I love it. I still love it so much.
6 has got some real good.
I like the it's like the it's kind of like the James Bond of
Well, it's the end of the Cold
Star
War.
Trek movies. Yeah.
It's the end of the Cold War, and what use is somebody who still thinks in that
Yeah.
to anybody?
It's great.
Yeah, it's
the political
because we have to think
intrigue,
about that too.
The assassin, you
Yeah.
know, it's so good.
Well, I mean, we have to think about that too, because
Mm-hmm.
eventually, someday, probably in our lifetime, we probably won't think of Muslims the way that we do. But for all of our lives, you know, we're
Yep.
going to have some sort of preconceived notion, or at least a big group of us will. And what use will we be towards that undiscovered country of the future?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's
Love it.
fantastic.
I love
all of these movies have such deep themes, and even 5. Trust me, it's a real deep belly laugh theme. Anyway, I love this movie, and seriously, the soundtrack to this movie
Oh my God.
is so good.
Can I mention quickly that I don't know what instrument it is that Goldsmith, that like no-name composer uses, but he hits it. It's like the top string of a bass guitar, that crang
It's
sound.
he used a synthesizer.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I love it so much.
'Cause,
it's like the dirtiest shit, man.
I think it might be his son. There's a Goldsmith in the sound department credits,
Yeah.
and I think his son is using instruments to create sound effects for V'ger.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
they use it earlier.
Yeah.
And I love
They
it.
use it whenever they show the cloud.
Yeah,
usually,
it's
or
so
yeah.
good.
It's very similar to the idea of like how certain directors use crackling electricity sounds. It was kind of this movie's version of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely had an electric feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
love, yeah, that's, woof. Yeah, the score is good.
Yeah. Nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
What beat it? Do we know? Probably some shit. Our friend Dave would know like in a second.
Probably.
Dave, you listening? I know you're listening. Thanks for listening, buddy. I hope we did this episode justice for you.
I love this movie, Dave. You know that. I've told you that. Thank you for making sure I could watch that director's edition in its glory. What do you see here? It's 1979 Academy Awards, whatever, 52nd, 51st Academy Awards, something like that.
Oh, it's going to be too hard to find quickly.
Just go to IMDb.
Fill some time. I got the Wikipedia. I'll find it.
So, yeah, I mean, the score of this obviously was very, very influential for the rest of Star Trek's history. While it wasn't used during 2 and 3, 2 and 3 are my favorite scores, both by James Horner. But I think it has to do with the way I feel about those movies. Although this one may be so sky high on a scale that I'm not even considering it because it is so sky high on the scale. But it was used again in Star Trek V, obviously for Star Trek Next Generation. And
Oh, yeah, we should mention that.
it was definitely used.
We just did.
Yeah. It was definitely used for at least 1 or 2 of the Star Trek Next Generation movies, at least for the end credits. I know it was definitely used for Nemesis because it was kind of the little...
Wow, I would have never pulled this out of my butt for a million years. A Little Romance by I'm going to mangle this French name, but Georges Delarue.
Yeah, never heard of it.
Never
Star Trek should have won.
It was also Henry Mancini's 10, Lalo
Wow.
Schifrin's The Amityville Horror,
Ooh.
Dave Grusin's The Champ, and then Jerry Goldsmith
Yeah.
for Star Trek Motion Picture. They were the nominated scores. Yeah, who knows? I can't imagine any of those being anywhere near as good as.
Well, this is
Star Trek.
also like a march too, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very reminiscent of the Superman score, where it's heroic and it's almost, you can almost hear the music reaching, reaching for the stars, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's so well loved, it's so well revered in the Star Trek world, and so strong of a piece that it was used so many times. I mean, it was used for 7 years for Next Generation.
Yep.
And then some of its movies.
Yep.
And then that's probably why it came back for Star Trek V. Was that, well, people love this theme. Star Trek Next Generation is popular right now. It's definitely better than this movie. So at least try to tie something good to it. Yeah. Jerry Goldsmith, you did a good.
You did a good, buddy. Anything else?
No, I love this movie. I can't wait to talk about more Star Trek. In fact, we're just going to turn this into a Star Trek podcast.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, surprise.
Well, we should, because I don't think there's anybody talking about Star Trek on the internet. So we really have a big hole to fill.
Yeah,
a big
right?
void.
Yeah, well,
a big V'ger to fill with a Star Trek podcast.
Yeah, I guess so. So come back next week for more discussion of where did V'ger come from?
We're going to talk for an hour and a half about one episode of the animated series next week. That's what, and then we're just going to bounce around. Don't want to be any rhyme or reason to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about an
We'll
Enterprise
do an entire episode in Klingon. I mean, that's going to happen.
Guaranteed.
I mean, we're already taking, classes on the internet at the Star Trek University.
Starfleet University.
Yeah.
Starfleet Academy.
Starfleet. Yeah.
God damn, I want to start that online.
That online school.
The online school.
I'm amazed. I bet if we look, there is one.
There's a game. I know that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
Get college credit for learning Klingon. I think that's probably a thing somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure. Pop culture. It would be a pop culture credit, probably. Certainly, there's Star Trek.
I bet you that there's
classes.
I bet you like made up languages like that, like Tolkien's languages that he made up. Elvish. Yeah. I bet you there is a class for that examines those types of language.
Well, yeah, because
the creation of language.
You actually have to create it
right.
in order to use it. And I mean,
there are linguists that just get off on all that stuff. Fictional languages, even. Yeah. Yep. Structure of language. Yeah.
Etymology.
Yep. Is it? Yeah.
So next couple of weeks, we're going to see the return of our very own Billy Preston. Chuck Moore. He's got a couple Peter Jackson movies he'd like to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of sci-fi guys, effects guys at least.
We're doing... Should we spill it or
no? They can wait.
All right,
they can fucking wait.
But
then we've got pretty strong end of the year. I mean, we got some Gremlins to talk about.
Uh-huh.
We got Crittersmas come back.
We do. We have a Crittersmas special.
Yeah,
that one might be a rough one.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Can't be worse than 4 or 3.
That's true.
I
don't think it is.
Good. So we've got some business to talk about. You can always catch our episodes on Wednesdays. They're usually not an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
And we are
hour 40.
We're getting close to hour 40.
Let's wrap this one up.
We're going to do the extended cut, and ABC can show it.
They're already done. They're like, they stopped talking about Star Trek. Like, the serious shit is over.
Yeah,
like Dave is done.
Yeah.
He's like, I know how the rest of this goes.
Yeah.
They're gonna awkwardly end the episode. Yeah. I mean, it's just yeah.
Well, we're awkward guys.
Yeah.
Damn it. I mean, come on. I better make sure that I said it. I took 3 pages of fucking notes here. No, that's fine. Anyway, catch new episodes of Film Seizure, usually not this long, sometimes half this long, over at filmseizure.com. Every Wednesdays, new Monster Mondays, which are definitely never this long, on Mondays. Sometimes we review new movies. Those just kind of happen. I've got B-Movie Enema on Fridays. You go over to bmovieenema.com. I'm working on a show there.
Yep.
It's all about V'ger.
Yeah, the whole show.
The whole show is about V'ger. Anyway, yeah. So you can always is it Film Seizure on Facebook and Twitter? We're there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go there. Yeah.
Film Seizure wherever the internet is sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where better internets are sold. So filmseizure@gmail.com. So shoot us an email. Say, hey, you guys are assholes. You made me listen for an hour and 40 minutes right on the knot, right on the knot right there. Although the intro and the exit's going to adjust that. And you haven't even talked about how that one fucking dude, Cleary, in engineering totally fucked up the transporter. Because he was told to replace the power thing, and he's replacing it, and it fucking blows up in his face, and the guy dies. Two guys died.
Yeah. Oof.
The Cronenberg.
Ugh.
Cleary, you should be court-martialed.
They were all a mess, though. Like that ship was not ready for prime time.
No.
Nope.
But anyway.
But it's charming.
It is.
And it's scary.
Yes. And a Delton's on board.
Yeah. But
anyway.
She's not having sex with anyone.
Well, she wanted to have sex with Decker.
She would have.
And she is now, like out there in the ether.
They're having cosmic sex now.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
They're birthing planets.
Birth of baby Galactuses or something. Maybe they're the origin of...
the Marvel Universe?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Or Cybertron.
Yep.
Boy, that would be a painful birth.
God, that's all pointy and bits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. But it originally started as gold because
right out of her V'ger.
Okay, we're done.
Yep.
We're done. See you next week, whatever. Do your thing. I'm Geoff Arbuckle.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.